Wow. Now that's the beach I'd want to be on. And there's a road and a parking lot. I think that's the one that Con was telling us about.
Yeah,
it's got a parking lot.
Yeah.
Can walk right to that beach. Looks like the water would be nice and calm because it's kind of in that protected little bay. Yeah, but out here you've got gorgeous rocks and cliffs. Good morning from Dingle, Ireland. We were here yesterday and you saw a little bit of footage from that. We spent the night here with just the loveliest people and a really, really nice Airbnb. We had, as you saw in the last video, we had essentially our own little miniature apartment and it was just wonderful. And Con is just so friendly and so much fun. He obviously loves, as Mark said, he obviously loves doing what he's doing, and spent considerable time with us yesterday showing us pictures of things on what they call the Slea Head Loop, which is the loop around the peninsula here, the Dingle Peninsula, and there's several things to see along the way. And he actually had such good information, it changed our minds about what we had planned to do today. That and the weather, because we had planned to do a cruise out to the Blasket Islands and see some ancient ruins out there, but it's rainy and very cold, and they canceled windy, and they canceled all of them yesterday, and they're more than likely going to cancel them all today too. So this was our plan B, but he turned it into our plan A. So that's what we're getting ready to do. There's lots to see along the way on the loop, and I don't think I'll feel like we're missing anything, because it looks like it's going to be super interesting and beautiful scenery. We're trying to get an early start. It's now 9 o'clock, and I'll just pass this information along to you that he gave to us. The bus tours start pouring into town. As I said yesterday, Dingle used to be a quiet, sleepy little town. No more. It's big on the tourist route. And he told us yesterday that the buses will start pouring into town and doing the Slea Head Loop this morning by about 10 o'clock. So we're trying to get a head start on the buses so that we don't have to deal with either the crowds at all the stops, but mainly messing with the buses on the road, because the roads are very, very narrow. So we're getting ready to go, and we're just gonna say to heck with the rain, and we're gonna do it anyway. So here we go. Historic ring fort. Wow, this is really cool. Mark read the information, so we'll get him to tell us about it in a minute. But you can see the raised ring here. And I read way over here that some of the smaller mounds were untouched, even though there's been no archaeological dig. But the reason they're still here is that the Irish believed they were fairy forts. And you don't touch anything belonging to the fairies. They will, because the fairies aren't real fairies. So what did they tell you about the ring forts?
It was owned by controlled by a local chieftain of the time period, and it was a center point of trade.
Okay. So there would have been rocks under these mounds, correct?
Yeah, it was built up between earth and rocks.
So I think I can see some.
Watch where you step.
Yeah, there's sheep droppings all through here. Oh, look at this. So this would have been the base of one of the huts within here. You can see it right here. were all little round huts. So that was the inside of the ring fort. And these are all over Ireland. There probably were thousands and thousands of them that have been destroyed, but we're going to go to the outer ring, which was the moat, and it probably was much deeper in its day, and its purpose was to make it difficult to attack the fort. So you can see this deep moat around the walls of the fort here that are all overgrown. And now the only inhabitants are sheep and goats. Here's a section, a good example of where you can see the rock. That's the foundation of the wall underneath all this growth. It's really kind of cool to think of. We're just gonna, there's some more
Stone Age fortifications.
Yep.
In those days it was a tough life, so it was generally easier to steal from your neighbor than it was for you to subsist yourself.
Yeah.
So
and also the reason that everything around here that you're seeing in my videos too, is everything is made of stone, is because the island is pretty much made of stone. Particularly the farther west you go, which is where we are now. We're the farthest point west on the coast. It was all rocky, and the Irish were pushed here by the English, who took the good land, what there was of it, on the east, and they pushed the Irish out. So the Irish were forced to come out here to the west, and farming was not very good because, oh, look at that pretty plant. It's a weed here, but I think it's so pretty. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, they were forced out here to the western coast where there was nothing but rock. And so rock being their one plentiful resource, that's why everything was built out of rock. And to this day, they build barns and storage sheds and things like that out of rock. And an interesting fact that we found out is that they recycle those rocks. So if they no longer need a stone building, or if they find a ruin, if they buy property with a ruin on it, they will take the rocks from that ruin and build their new buildings, which is very practical, but in a way it's a shame because you don't know what it is that's been torn down. It might have been very historical. And then what they had to do over here on the west coast to raise crops was they actually had to cultivate seaweed from the ocean and build up the seaweed, which creates a good soil for growing, but it takes a very long time, as you can imagine. So they had it extremely rough. And here's a mama and a baby. Oh, come here. Come here. So life here was extremely rough on this part of the island. Stopped at a place called the Famine Village, which has some buildings from the 1800s. According to the brochure, it has one large farmhouse, which would have belonged to the farmer, and then some smaller peasant houses, and these were built during the famine. So we're going to see what life was like. So we've reached the village. This is a larger farmhouse, even the farm owner's home. And this would have housed a couple of peasant families. And same over there. And it was customary then that the animals were kept in a barn that was attached to the house. At one time they were even kept in the house. So this was an improvement. This is the main house. Oh gosh. That lady sitting there spooked me. This would have been their bedroom. All stone walls, as you can see. Very sparse and rustic. Very simple. They didn't have much. They were probably lucky to have a real bed. A lot of them just had to sleep on hay on the floor. This would have been the main room where they spent most of their time. A few pieces of furniture. Fireplace. And then the children usually slept in the loft. Another small bedroom on this side. Actually, it's a fairly decent sized bedroom, but they probably had multiple people sleeping in here. So it was a rough life for these people. Very rough life. We think this might have been a washing machine of some sort. It's made to rotate. It wouldn't have been for butter. It's too big. Butter churns were usually sat on the floor. Although, you know, who knows? Maybe they made cheese. There's a millstone here. Obviously, they ground some grains. I'm not sure what this is. And later, in a later time period after the original buildings were built, the inhabitants of this farm searched the shores right across the road from us. We can see the ocean. And they spent a lot of time searching the shores for timber from a shipwreck and made a roof out of it. Here's the back of the barn area. So out here is what they call a beehive hut. This one said it would have been used to house the pig. It said during the famine years it was used as a type of mini outhouse, and a pig was kept inside. So I'm going to walk over to that other building and see if I can go inside it. So this is how the peasants would have lived. It's kind of dark. I don't know how well you can see it. But this would have been one of the peasants' huts. They probably would have had their animals, farm animals, inside with them. And you can see, as I said, in the main house, they were forced to sleep on the floor on hay or rushes because they couldn't afford a bed. And it had to be a really miserable, rough life. Even in the rain. Even Mark's taking pictures. Hardly ever takes pictures. He doesn't need to because I do it. How cool. Well, we had a wet but interesting morning in Dingle, and we are staying in Galway tonight, which is quite a bit north of Dingle. So rather than drive all the way inland, because Dingle was out on a peninsula, rather than drive all the way inland and go back out into County Clare, we're going to take the ferry across the Shannon Inlet. I don't know, the Shannon something. But anyway, so we've just arrived in the little town of Tarbert, which is where the ferry leaves from, and we have just missed the 3:30 ferry, so we'll have about an hour, and we're going to catch the 4:30 ferry and go over to County Clare.
Jackets are available at various locations throughout the vessel if required. At the assembly point, a crew member will instruct you on the procedures to be followed.
So we're on the ferry. They're giving a lot of warnings and announcements. Looks like the guy's coming along and collecting our fee.
Single or return?
Just
No
single.
return. Yeah.
19 syllables. Right. Cheers.
Thank you.
We're official. We're all paid up. Now we just get to sit here and wait till it leaves in 50 minutes. And then what? How long did they say it takes to cross?
They didn't.
Like 40 minutes, I think they said. So it looks like we're gonna have quite a while to put our seat backs. Well, Mark can put his seat back. I've got luggage behind mine. We can take naps. There's a snack bar over there, but we can't get out of our cars until all the cars are loaded.
And I don't think once
And it's
they're
pouring
loaded,
rain.
we're going to be able to get out of our car.
And I don't think once they're loaded, we're going to be able to get out. We're going to be in here pretty tight. I don't think I can get, I don't have very much room over there. I do not think I can open my door and get out of that.
No.
No. While we're sitting here, do you have any tips, any pro tips to give about driving in Ireland? You did pretty good.
Well, I'm not done yet. But
Well, I know, but you've been driving now for a few days. It just took him really the first day to kind of get the hang of it.
I've always struggled with the roundabouts. Right away typically goes to the person that is in the roundabout and then the person that is on your left.
A couple times we came to intersections that were supposed to be roundabouts. The only thing that made them roundabout was there was a circle painted in the middle of the intersection. We've never seen anything like that, so that was kind of interesting.
The best tip I can get you when you're not on one of the motorways, if they say it's 100 kilometers per hour, don't go 100 kilometers per hour until you're comfortable, because in most cases the turns you cannot take, you can barely take them at 80 kilometers per hour. So I would be just very careful. There's no problem with you going slow. There's a whole bunch of tourists driving around too. The locals know that. They're going to pass you, and don't be worried about that. Take your time.
And I'll tell you too, the biggest, most helpful hint that we got today about the Dingle Peninsula was from Con, our B&B host, who said we were going to do the Slea Head route. Two really important tips he gave us. A, go early, because the buses start about 10 o'clock. And sure enough, by the time we left his house, I don't know what, about 9:20, and we were already starting to see buses. And two, stop at the tourist information center that's down near the pier in Dingle and get the map. It's a very clear map. It shows you where all the points of interest are, and follow that route clockwise, because that's the direction that all the buses go. And trust me, you do not want to meet a bus head on those tiny narrow roads. There are literally places where I don't know how a bus makes it, much less
It was just big enough
one.
for this car. You have to anticipate what's coming, and I'm sure people have to back up, because if another car was coming, I couldn't have gone.
And it's really, really helpful to have somebody helping the driver to navigate.
Yeah.
But even then, it's hard because you want to look and see everything, because the views are just, even on a cloudy, rainy day today, there were just spectacular vistas and cliffs that you wanted to look over, and the driver cannot afford to take his eyes off the road for even a minute.
For a
so
second.
that's the hardest part. So
if your wife tells you, "Oh, look at that over there,"
don't look. But I will say that there are lots of pull-offs, and generally speaking, where there was a really pretty view, there was some place to pull off. Oh, in case you were wondering, the ferry cost $19 to go one way. Did you see what it was two ways?
I did not.
I think it was, I want to say it was 35 two ways. Oh, I thought of one other tip. When we were in Dingle, our host told us that the Wi-Fi was really bad, and we did find that it was tough. It was really slow at his house. But I will tell you, the pubs that we were in all had great Wi-Fi, and they all, I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but all the ones we were in, even though when we went to look for the Wi-Fi, it said locked, if you ask the bartender or your waitress, they all gave us passwords so that we could use Wi-Fi while we were there, and we were able to Google information like that, and I was able to upload a couple pictures and things like that. So if you're in Dingle and you have to have Wi-Fi and you are having trouble finding it, check out a pub and have a hot whiskey while you're there, or a beer. We're across into County Clare. Turns out we did not miss the 3:30 ferry. They left a few minutes late. We were the last car on, and they shut the gate behind us. And the whole time we were talking to you, we were crossing.
We had no idea.
We had no idea. We literally didn't feel the thing moving until Mark looked and saw trees moving. So we're in County Clare now.